So, today's topic suggestion comes from Mike Cook. You might know him from my movies, The Case and George. He was the main character in both movies. Yeah. So, he sent me a picture. Let's see if I can bring it up. I'm looking. Okay, there we go. That's the picture right there. Watch what I can make Pavlov do as soon as I drool. He'll smile and write in his little book. I don't know. Anyway, then Mike went on to say that he was really cruel. Where was that? He said that he was cruel to his dogs. And I said maybe I should do a video about it. And he said maybe you should. So that's what I'm doing today. Doing a video about it. About Ivan Pavlov. Ivan Pavlov. Ivan Petrovich Pavlov. Was born September 26, 1849 to February 27th, 1936 when he died. And he was 86 years old when he passed. And that's a better picture of him right there. Alright, so anyway, boop-a-doop-boop-boo. He was a Russian and Soviet experimental neurologist, psychologist, and physiologist, known for his discovery of classical conditioning through his experiments with dogs. Ivan Petrovich Pavlov, the first of 11 children, was born in Ryazan, Russia, Russian Empire. Hang on here. I need to turn my phone off before it starts beeping and blooping and everything. Anyway, his father, Peter Dmitriev Pavlov, from 1823 to 1899, was a village Russian Orthodox priest. His mother, Varvara Ivanovna Uspenskaya, 1826 to 1890, was a devoted homemaker. As a child, Pavlov willingly participated in house duties, such as doing the dishes and taking care of his siblings. He loved to garden, ride his bicycle, row, swim, and play gorodki. No idea what that is. Gorodki is an ancient Russian folk sport whose popularity has spread to Karelia, Finland, Sweden, Ingria, parts of Lithuania, and Estonia. Similar in concept to bowling and also somewhat to horseshoes, the aim of the game is to knock out groups of skittles arranged in various patterns. Oh! So kind of like croquet. Anyway, he devoted his summer vacations to these activities. Although able to read by the age of 7, Pavlov was seriously injured when he fell from a high wall onto a stone pavement, like Humpty Dumpty. As a result of the injuries he sustained, he did not begin formal schooling until he was 11 years old. From his childhood days, Pavlov demonstrated intellectual curiosity along with an unusual energy, which he referred to as the instinct for research. Inspired by the progressive ideas which Dmitry Pisarev, a Russian literary critic of the 1860s, and Ivan Sechenov, the father of Russian psychology, were spreading. Pavlov abandoned his religious career and devoted his life to science. In 1870, he enrolled in the physics and mathematics department at the University of St. Petersburg to study natural science. Pavlov attended the Ryazan Church School before entering the local theological seminary. In 1870, however, he left the seminary without graduating to attend the university at St. Petersburg. There he enrolled in physics and math department and took natural science courses. In his fourth year, his first research project on the physiology of the nerves of the pancreas won him a prestigious university award. In 1875, Pavlov completed his course with an outstanding record and received the degree of Candidate of Natural Sciences. Impelled by his overwhelming interest in physiology, Pavlov decided to continue his studies and proceed to the Imperial Academy of Medical Surgery. While at the academy, Pavlov became an assistant to his former teacher, Elias von Sion. He left the department when de Sion was replaced by another instructor. After some time, Pavlov obtained a position as a laboratory assistant to Konstantin Nikolaevich Ustimovich at the physiological department of the Veterinary Institute. For 2 years, Pavlov investigated the circulatory system for his medical dissertation. In 1878, Professor S.P. Botkin, a famous Russian clinician, invited the gifted young physiologist. Why do I keep on wanting to say psychologist? Physiologist. Big difference. To work in the physiological laboratory as the clinic's chef. Chief, not chef, chief. Not cooking these dogs. Anyway, but what do I know? Bow, 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 bow. In 1879, Pavlov graduated from the Medical Military Academy with a gold medal award for his research work. After a competitive examination, Pavlov won a fellowship at the Academy for postgraduate work. The fellowship and his position as director of the physiological laboratory at Botkin's clinic enabled Pavlov to continue his research work. In 1883, he presented his doctor's thesis on the subject of the centrifugal nerves of the heart and posited the idea of nervism and the basic principles on the trophic function of the nervous system. Additionally, his collaboration with the Botkin Clinic produced evidence of a basic pattern in the regulation of reflexes in the activity of circulatory organs. Influences. He was inspired to pursue a scientific career by D.I. Pizarro. A literary critique and a natural science advocate of the time, and I. M. Sechenov, a Russian physiologist whom Pavlov described as the father of physiology. Dum, da, da, dum. Career. After completing his doctorate, Pavlov went to Germany, where he studied in Leipzig with Carl Ludwig and who? Imre Kelly in the Heidenhain laboratories in Breslau. He remained there from 1884 to 1886. Heidenhain was studying digestion in dogs using an exteriorized section of the stomach. However, Pavlov perfected the technique by overcoming the problem of maintaining the external nerve supply. The exteriorized section became known as the Heidenhain or Pavlov pouch. In 1886, Pavlov returned to Russia to look for a new position. His application for the chair of physiology at the University of St. Petersburg was rejected. Eventually, Pavlov was offered the chair of pharmacology at the Tomsk University in Siberia and at the University of Warsaw in Poland. He did not take up either post. In 1890, he was appointed the role of professor of pharmacology at the Military Medical Academy and occupied the position for 5 years. In 1891, Pavlov was invited to the Institute of Experimental Medicine in St. Petersburg to organize and direct the Department of Physiology. Over a 45-year period under his direction, the Institute became one of the most important centers of physiological research in the world. Pavlov continued to direct the Department of Physiology at the Institute while taking up the chair of physiology at the Medical Military Academy in 1895. Pavlov would head the physiology department at the Academy continuously for 3 decades. Wow, that's a long time. Starting in 1901, Pavlov was nominated over 4 successive years for the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. He did not win the prize until 1904 because his previous nominations were not specific to any discovery, but based on a variety of laboratory findings. When Pavlov received the Nobel Prize, it was specified that he did so in recognition of his work on the physiology of digestion, through which knowledge on vital aspects of the subject has been transformed and enlarged. Hang on. Wow. Anyway, it was at the Institute of Experimental Medicine that Pavlov carried out his classical experiments on the digestive glands, which would eventually grant him the aforementioned Nobel Prize. Pavlov investigated the gastric function of dogs and later homeless children. By externalizing a salivary gland, so he could collect, measure, and analyze the saliva and what response it had to food under different conditions. He noticed that the dogs tended to salivate before food was actually delivered to their mouths, and set out to investigate this psychic secretion, as he called it. Experiments on orphan children involving drilling a hole in their cheeks and applying electric shocks were continued by his assistant Nikolai Krasnogorsky. Well, that's a Russian name. Pavlov's laboratory housed a full-scale kennel for the experimental canines. Pavlov was interested in observing their long-term physiological processes. Wow. Blah, blah, blah. Homeless children. So not only dogs, but he experimented on children? That's crazy. Huh. Full-scale kennel for experimental canines. Pavlov was interested in observing their long-term physiological processes. This required keeping them alive and healthy to conduct chronic experiments, as he called them. These were experiments over time designed to understand the normal functions of dogs. This was a new kind of study because previously experiments had been acute, meaning that the dog went through vivisection, which ultimately killed the canine in the process. Wow. A 1921 article by S. Morgulis in the journal Science was critical of Pavlov's work, raising concerns about the environment in which these experiments had been performed. Based on a report from H.G. Wells, claiming that Pavlov grew potatoes and carrots in his laboratory, the article stated, "It is gratifying to be assured that Professor Pavlov is raising potatoes only as a pastime and still gives the best of his genius to scientific investigation." That same year, Pavlov began holding laboratory meetings known as the Wednesday meetings, at which he spoke frankly on many topics, including his views on psychology, Yeah. See, there, that's psychology. Anyway, these meetings lasted until he died in 1936. Pavlov was highly regarded by the Soviet government and was able to continue his research until he reached a considerable age. He was praised by Lenin. Ooh, really? Vladimir Lenin was a Russian revolutionary politician and political theorist. Yeah. Anyway, despite praise from the Soviet Union government, the money that poured in to support his laboratory and the honors he was given, Pavlov made no attempts to conceal the disapproval and contempt with which he regarded Soviet communism. In 1923, he stated that he would sacrifice even the hind leg of a frog to the type of social experiment that the regime was conducting in Russia. 4 years later, he wrote to Stalin protesting at what was being done to Russian intellectuals and saying he was ashamed to be Russian. After the murder of Sergei Kirov in 1934, Pavlov wrote several letters to Molotov criticizing the mass persecutions which followed and asking for the reconsideration of cases pertaining to several people he knew personally. Conscious until his final moment, Pavlov asked one of his students to sit beside his bed and to record the circumstances of his dying. He wanted to create unique evidence of subjective experiences of this terminal phase of life. Pavlov died of double pneumonia at the age of 86. He was given a grand funeral, and his study and laboratory were preserved as a museum in his honor. He gave his grave in the Literaturski Mosty Writer's Footways section of Volkovo Cemetery in St. Petersburg. Wow, lots of unpronounceable words. Maybe if I had teeth. Then it goes on, reflex system research, research on types of properties in nervous systems, Pavlov on education, legacy, awards and honors, personal life, legacy. I always like this legacy thing. But I don't see anything about him abusing the dogs. It is popularly believed that Pavlov always signaled the occurrence of food by ringing a bell. However, his writings record the use of a wide variety of stimuli, including electric shocks, whistles, metronomes, tuning forks, and a range of visual stimuli in addition to the ring of a bell. In 1994, Catania cast doubt on whether Pavlov ever actually used a bell in his experiments. Lippmann tentatively attributed the popular imagery to Pavlov's contemporaries Vladimir Mikhailovich Bekirev and John B. Watson. Roger K. Thomas of the University of Georgia, however, said they had found 3 additional references to Pavlov's use of a bell that strongly challenged Lippmann's argument. In reply, Lippmann suggested that Catania's recollection that Pavlov did not use the bell in research was convincing and correct. Wow, okay. The Pavlov Institute of Physiology of the Russian Academy of Sciences was founded by Pavlov in 1925 and named after him following his death. So I wonder what it was named before his death. Interesting. What about his personal life? Ivan Pavlov married Serafima Vasilina. Okay, I just said that because it rhymed. But no, Serafima Vasilevna Kerchevskaya on May 1st, 1881, whom he had met in 1878 or 1879 when she went to St. Petersburg to study at the Pedagogical Institute. Serafima, called Sarah for short, thank you very much, was born in 1855. In her later years, she suffered from ill health and died in 1947. So why couldn't she just be named Sarah Karchev? It would have been so much easier to pronounce. Anyway, the first 9 years of their marriage were marred by financial problems. Pavlov and his wife often had to stay with others to have a home, and for a time the two lived apart so they could find hospitality. Although their poverty caused despair, material welfare was a secondary consideration. Sarah's first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. When she conceived again, the couple took precautions and she safely gave birth to their first child, a boy whom they named Murchik. Sarah became deeply depressed following Murchik's sudden death in childhood. Wow. Ivan and Sarah eventually had 4 more children: Vladimir, Victor, Vislavlod, and Vera. Their youngest son, Vislavlod, died of pancreatic cancer in 1935, only 1 year before his father. Pavlov was an atheist. And atheists don't exist! Anyway, I just had to say that. Maybe tomorrow's video, no, I don't know. Do a video about it one of these days. But anyway, there we go. That is the story of Pavlov. Doesn't really seem that abusive. I mean, he was only conducting experiments, right? The children part of it, though. Wow. They drilled a hole in their cheek. Right? So they used homeless children so that it wouldn't... Why? Why homeless children? Why? Because they don't have families that would disapprove of what they were doing? Maybe? I don't know. I mean, were these stray dogs that they were using as well? What is wrong with your shirt? Yeah, that's better. Game on! I don't know. He's a cute little bear. Anyway, yeah, so that is today's lesson. That is today's video, and I will put that in my little notepad so I can put it in the description box. When I upload the video, so that you can read everything about that. I don't know. How many of you actually read the articles that I put in the description box? How many of you actually click the links that I put in the description box? How many of you actually open the description box? Let me know. There's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of stuff to check out in there. I've got them permanently put in there. It's not just the Wikipedia pages that I read or the other websites that I read. It's, my link tree, which has my merchandise page. I've got so much in there. I'm gonna die because nobody cares. Okay, that was an exaggeration. But yeah, let's see here. I've got my blood sugar levels in there. Alright, I put that every day just in case you're interested. I've got my Kick channel, which I haven't streamed on in a while. Maybe I'll start doing that soon. I've got the link that I do my intros on. I've got a donation link to help support my channel. I've got my merchandise. Yeah, official Underland 76 merch. I've got my link tree, which is a bunch of links that you can check out. I even have Jasmine's AVON page, so you can become a customer of hers. But it's only for Canadian orders. So if you live in Canada and you want to order AVON, it's the last link in the description box down below. You can be one of her customers and get it delivered to your door pronto. Yeah, but anyway, that is it. I don't know. I put all that stuff in there so you can check it out. Whether you do or not, that's your choice. But please, if you haven't checked out all the links in the description box, please do so now. And let me know what you think. The merchandise is, pretty good prices. I put the prices as low as I can go. And I don't really make that much of a profit off of them, but, I don't want to overcharge anybody either. Right? So it's probably the lowest prices on Stream Elements that they have for merchandise. I don't know. Check it all out. Let me know what you think. And I will be back tomorrow with another product review. Because if you remember the Walmart vlog, I picked up that Cheetos macaroni and cheese that was ketchup flavored. Well, I'm going to be making that tomorrow. And I will do a review on it as I'm eating it. So yeah, stay tuned for that.